The mercury's rising and the official start to summer is just days away. So you can be excused if you're more concerned with backyard barbecues and vacation plans than state politics right about now. Be that as it may, there were some interesting developments over the weekend, particularly when it comes to the race to replace Governor Deval Patrick. Heading into the state Democratic convention in Worcester, there were 5 contenders vying for the party's nomination. But after the delegates cast their votes, that number is down to 3. Steve Grossman, Martha Coakley, and Donald Berwick each surpassed the requisite 15% threshold to earn a spot on September's primary ballot. The outcome of the convention caught some people off guard and could make for a more interesting campaign season. Here to break it all down is Peter Ubertasio. He's a political science professor at Stonehill College. Peter, welcome back to Greater Boston.
Thanks for having me.
So Steve Grossman can't come close to Martha Coakley in the polls, but at the convention he beats her by a pretty comfortable margin. And what's more, Donald Berwick, who's done even more poorly in the polls than Steve Grossman, nearly edges past Coakley for second place. Were you surprised at the way this shook out?
I wasn't surprised that Steve Grossman came in first, and I was a little surprised at the tight margin between Martha Coakley and Don Berwick. But I think the lineup at the end of the day is not a huge surprise. The 2 candidates who didn't make it had failed really to energize the grassroots.
This is Juliette Kayyem and Joe Avalone?
Juliette Kayyem and Joe Avalone, who really weren't able to gain a footing within the party. And Berwick had been relentless in his pursuit of the more activist, progressive elements of the party and was able to sustain that moving forward. I don't think the outcome is a huge surprise. I just think it's that tight margin that's a little troubling if you're the Coakley campaign, but the reality is they hadn't been predicting a convention win. I think they were glad that she came in second, and they're really looking forward to the primary campaign where they think they have an edge.
What is it about Steve Grossman and Democratic activists that makes him more appealing to them than to the public at large?
Well, I think Steve Grossman has a long history with the Massachusetts Democratic Party. He's run statewide before. He was a party chair at both the state and the national level. He has a very long and deep history with the folks who are in that convention hall. And so it would have been an enormous surprise had someone who with that kind of pedigree and background had not done as well as he did, because he's got that history.
After the ballots were counted, Grossman cast the outcome as a harsh repudiation of Martha Coakley's candidacy. Let's take a look at how he framed it.
Look, when the second place finisher, frankly, is rejected by 75% of the convention delegates, that's also noteworthy. She chose not to go to a second ballot. We won this nomination by acclamation.
Of course, when it comes to Martha Coakley, Steve Grossman is not exactly a neutral observer. How much of that is self-aggrandizing spin and how much is legit analysis?
Well, it is noteworthy. The trouble for Grossman, or what might be the trouble for him, is that it may only be noteworthy within the convention hall, among delegates, among activists who pay very close attention to that. What he needs to hope for is that starting today and over the next couple of weeks, that people outside the convention hall who are not yet paying close attention to the race also find it noteworthy, because he has a lot of ground that he has to gain on Martha Coakley.
In terms of who's paying attention and who isn't, you had an interesting anecdote about people not being aware of what was happening in Worcester when you were there?
Well, that's right. Both I called for a cab to take me to the convention hall, and the dispatcher was not aware of what was going on at the DCU Center where the convention was held. When I got into the cab and we pulled up to the convention hall, the cab driver asked what was going on. Now, that's certainly not scientific, but I think it is a useful anecdote. Most people are not yet paying very close attention to the gubernatorial election. They're certainly not paying attention to the machinations within the Democratic Party. That is Steve Grossman's biggest challenge. He's coming out of the convention, as is Don Berwick, with some wind in their sails, but they've got to penetrate the larger voting population.
Following this thing from a distance, I was really struck by Martha Coakley choosing to bring up her defeat to Scott Brown in 2010, her embarrassing defeat in Scott Brown. Let's listen to her remarks on that topic.
The 2010 Senate election was very painful for a lot of people in this room. I understand how much of your heart and soul was in that race. Mine too. I know how hard so many of you worked in that race, and I thank you for that.
That was 4 years ago. Why is she still talking about that right now?
I think she's still talking about it, and I think they felt the need to raise it there because the group of people who are in that room are the folks who were perhaps the most let down by the loss of that seat to Scott Brown. Now, I would argue, as many others would, that it's not at all clear that any Democrat could have held that seat given the particular context of that election in that year. But I think she felt like she needed to go right to the delegates, right to the activists in her own party and say, I understand the kind of frustration that you feel toward me, and I'm going to work really hard to earn your respect or earn your trust, because she knows and her people know that if she does gain the nomination, she's going to need the folks in that hall to help her get out the vote in November.
Let's talk a bit more about Don Berwick, the surprise third-place finisher, or with, I should say, a surprisingly close third-place finish. He has become identified as sort of the progressive favorite, the candidate beloved by the left of the Democratic Party, and it's an identity that he has really embraced. Let's listen to him talking about being the progressive favorite in the race.
This suggests to me that there are a substantial number of voters out there in this state that want bold and specific and progressive agenda. Single-payer health care, Medicare for all.
All right, my question here is, if he is the progressive favorite, why is that? Because my sense is that both Steve Grossman and Martha Coakley would consider themselves progressives as well. So why him?
Well, that's right, and they are progressives. The Democratic Party has put forward 3 progressives for this primary fight. I think the difference here is on a couple of issues. One, in health care, but perhaps more importantly, I think, is his stance on casino gambling. He has been relentless in his approach on those 2 issues. He has spoken directly to the progressive activist base of the party. And on those issues, particularly on casino gambling, he's been able to catch a wave that's occurring out there. The anti-casino movement is real. I think it's gaining steam. And it's very good timing for him because that he views that, I think, as part of his legitimacy as a candidate.
All right. Peter Ubertasio, thank you as always. I wanted to ask you about the AG's outcome. We'll have to save that for another time. The Democratic Convention is perfect fodder for The Scrum, our weekly web series on all things political. A new podcast goes online tomorrow in which I promise we'll be talking about the AG's race. I hope you'll check it out at WGBHnews.org.